All right, everybody, get ready, because today we're going deep into the world of Dr. Yogesh Malhotra.
Oh, yeah, this will be good.
This guy is like the ultimate AI expert, but he's also been a professor.
At MIT, no less.
Yeah, and Princeton.
Wow.
Worked with some pretty big hedge funds.
$1 trillion one.
Trillion-dollar hedge funds, advised the Pentagon, even founded some really groundbreaking companies.
Really impressive resume.
Talk about a resume, right? But here's the thing that kind of blows my mind. He says that data is profoundly dumb.
Interesting.
So we are going to unpack what that means and how it connects to his passion, the future of education.
Yeah, because you think with a background like that, he'd be all about the data, but that's kind of where Dr. Malhotra flips the script.
Right.
Like he's really challenging us to think beyond just data and think about real understanding.
Okay, I'm hooked. How does that data is dumb idea play out in education?
Well, he says a lot of AI today is stuck in what's called single-loop learning.
Single-loop learning.
Yeah, and it's like if you're tweaking a recipe, you might change an ingredient or two, but you're still making the same dish.
Oh, so you're saying AI is good at optimizing within the rules, but not necessarily questioning the rules themselves.
You got it.
Okay.
Dr. Malhotra is pushing for what's called double-loop learning, which is taking a step back and saying, what if we baked a cake instead of cookies?
I like cake.
Yeah.
So it's about challenging the assumptions and being willing to completely change your approach.
Exactly. And he thinks that that's what's missing in a lot of AI now, especially in education.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you think about how every student is so different and how many ways there are to be successful.
Right.
It's like the recipe might work for one student, but totally flop for another.
Totally. And this leads into one of Dr. Malhotra's most fascinating ideas, quantum minds.
Ooh.
He wants to build AI systems that can work with uncertainty, much like quantum mechanics, which is really unpredictable.
Okay, quantum minds. That sounds a little bit like science fiction. How does that even work? And how does that connect back to this idea that data is dumb?
Well, it's not like there's literal quantum physics in the AI, but it's the concept.
Okay.
So instead of being programmed with rigid rules, these quantum minds would be able to handle ambiguity and learn from unexpected outcomes and just constantly adapt.
So instead of crunching data within a set framework, they would be able to question the framework itself and come up with new approaches.
Exactly.
That's pretty different from how we think about AI working today.
It is, and Dr. Malhotra thinks this is really important for making AI that can actually personalize learning. Because, let's be honest, data can tell you what a student scored on a test.
Right.
But it can't tell you why they scored that way or what their strengths are or what kind of learning environment they would do best in.
Yeah, it's more than just feeding the AI more and more data. It's about teaching it to think a little more like a human with all of our,
Messiness.
our messiness.
Unpredictable brilliance. And to really see how he's putting this into practice, we have to look at what he's doing at SUNY Polytechnic Institute.
Okay.
He's developed something called Lumen Circles.
Lumen circles.
Where he uses AI to personalize learning in a totally new way.
I like the sound of that. Tell me more about what's happening in these circles and how is Dr. Malhotra bridging the gap between quantum minds and what's actually happening in a classroom?
So one of the key things he's doing is using AI to automate tasks like grading and feedback.
Okay.
This frees up educators to spend more time on the things AI can't do, like mentoring students and having deep discussions and really understanding each student's needs.
So it's not about replacing teachers with robots. It's about giving teachers superpowers so they can do what they do best, teaching and inspiring.
Yeah.
But I am curious how this idea that data is dumb fits into these Lumen circles.
Well, he uses a specific framework.
Okay.
He calls it Yogi AI.
I love it. It's catchy.
Catchy name, right?
What does it stand for?
It stands for Yogi Appreciative Inquiry with Artificial Intelligence.
Yogi Appreciative Inquiry with Artificial Intelligence.
And see, it's not just AI. It's appreciative inquiry with AI.
So he's being very intentional about how the tech is used.
Exactly.
Okay, what is this appreciative inquiry part?
Appreciative inquiry is all about focusing on strengths and potential, not just problems.
Mm-hmm.
And this fits perfectly with Dr. Malhotra's belief
that
learning should be empowering and positive.
Okay.
And within Yogi AI, there's a 3-step process he uses.
Right.
So first, students generate outputs from various AI tools.
Okay.
Then they have to critically review and analyze what the AI has produced.
Got it.
And finally, they use that process to deepen their understanding of whatever topic they're learning about.
So it's about really engaging with the information and questioning it and using it to build their own understanding.
Exactly. It's about nurturing critical thinking. And
Hmm.
that ability to discern, which Dr. Malhotra says, is essential in a world that's just flooded with data.
Right.
He wants to make sure the students don't become what he calls data parrots, just repeating what the AI spits out,
Oh, yeah.
but that they're really thinkers who can analyze and evaluate and form their own conclusions.
That makes a lot of sense.
And that's where his idea that data is dumb comes full circle, because it's recognizing that data is just the starting point.
Yeah.
It's the human mind that actually brings meaning and understanding to it.
This is really interesting stuff, but are we just talking theory here? Are students in these Lumen circles actually benefiting from this approach?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And thankfully, the evidence from Dr. Malhotra's work is promising.
Okay.
He's seeing students who are more engaged, asking deeper questions, and showing a much stronger grasp of complex topics.
That's amazing.
It is.
And it sounds like it's not just about academic performance. It's about giving them those critical thinking skills they're going to need in a world that's changing all the time.
Absolutely. And that's really just the beginning when it comes to Dr. Malhotra's work. His career path has been anything but conventional.
Yeah, you mentioned his work with hedge funds and the Pentagon. How do those worlds connect to education in his mind?
Well, he sees connections where other people see divisions.
That's what I love about him. He's a master weaver, taking these totally different fields and creating something totally new.
Totally.
So how does his experience with hedge funds connect to his work in education?
So for years, he was deep in the world of financial modeling, working with algorithms that were designed to predict market trends.
Right.
And that gave him a deep understanding of just how powerful, but also limited data-driven approaches can be.
So he saw firsthand how that idea that data is dumb can play out in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just a philosophy for him. It's something he lived.
Yeah.
You know, he realized even the most sophisticated algorithms could get thrown off by these unexpected events. You know, what he calls black swan events.
Last one of it.
Those are unpredictable things that the traditional models just can't handle.
Okay.
And he started to see these parallels between black swan events in the financial markets and how unpredictable human learning can be.
Huh, so you're saying that just like you can't predict the stock market with 100% certainty, you can't really predict how a student's going to learn just by their test scores.
Exactly. And that's where his work with the Pentagon comes in.
Okay.
He was advising them on how to build what they call adversarial command and control systems.
Adversarial command and control.
And these systems are designed to keep working even when they're under attack in really uncertain and chaotic environments.
So basically designing systems that can handle anything that's thrown at them.
Exactly. And he started to think about how these same ideas could apply to education.
Right, because learning is navigating a really complex and ever-changing landscape.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
And that's where his focus on adaptability and resilience comes in.
Yeah.
He says we need to prepare students, not just for the jobs we have now, but for jobs that don't even exist yet.
That's a big task.
It is a big task,
Yeah.
but we need to give them the ability to think critically and solve problems and adapt to these new situations.
So it's less about memorizing facts and figures and more about giving them these cognitive skills that let them learn and evolve.
Exactly. He believes that everyone should be a lifelong learner, always looking for new knowledge and challenging their assumptions.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that idea runs through all of his work, from his early days in online education to his current focus on AI and personalized learning. Hold on, back up a second. You said online education. Tell me more about that. What was his early work like?
Oh, back in the 1990s. Long before online learning was a thing.
Right.
He founded one of the first digital learning networks called aimlexchange.com.
aimlexchange.com.
Yeah, it was really groundbreaking for the time. It connected students and educators all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And it made space for collaborative learning and knowledge sharing.
He was doing this in the 90s. That's amazing. Most people weren't even using the internet back then.
I know.
What was his vision for online learning, and how did that connect to his work with AI later on?
He really saw the potential for technology to make education accessible to everyone everywhere, regardless of background or location.
I like that.
Yeah. And he thought online learning could offer a more personalized and engaging experience, tailoring the content to individual needs and learning styles.
So these core ideas personalization, access, and engagement were there from the beginning.
Exactly.
He was thinking about this way before AI was really part of the conversation.
And it's so cool to see how those early ideas have changed and grown along with the development of AI.
It's like he's been on this quest to unlock human learning for decades, first with online education and now with AI.
And the thing that's so powerful is that his vision has always been about the human part of it.
Yeah.
He's not interested in replacing teachers or making education less human. He wants to use technology to empower everyone involved.
So it's augmentation, not replacement.
Right.
It's about using technology to make learning richer, more dynamic, more human.
Exactly. And this brings us right back to Lumen Circles. It's in these spaces that we see all these threads coming together, his knowledge of data and its limitations, his focus on adaptability and resilience, his early work in online education, and his belief in human-centered technology.
This is incredible. It's like we've gone on this whirlwind tour of his mind and connected all these dots into this grand vision for the future of learning. But I still have so many questions. Like, how are these Lumen circles structured? What does a normal day look like for students? How are they using AI in practice? What are the outcomes?
Those are all great questions, and I'm ready to answer them. But first, let's take a quick pause, gather our thoughts, and we'll be right back to explore how Dr. Malhotra's vision is coming to life in these Lumen circles. Welcome back. We were talking about Dr. Malhotra's work with hedge funds and the Pentagon before the break.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that those experiences would have anything to do with education, but he sees the connections.
That's what I find so fascinating about him. He's like this master weaver, taking threads from all these different fields and making something totally new. So let's untangle this thread. How does working with hedge funds connect to his work in education?
Well, for years, he was working in the world of high-stakes financial modeling, working with algorithms designed to predict market trends.
Okay.
That gave him a deep understanding of the power and also the limitations of data-driven approaches.
So he saw firsthand how that data is dumb idea can play out with real consequences.
Yeah, it wasn't just a philosophy for him. It's something he's experienced.
Right.
He saw that even the most complex algorithms could be thrown off by those unpredictable events that he calls black swan events.
Black swan events.
Yeah, these are those unpredictable things that traditional models just aren't built to handle.
Okay.
And he started to see the parallels between black swan events in the financial markets and how unpredictable human learning can be.
Huh. So just like you can't predict the stock market with total certainty, you can't really predict how a student will learn just by looking at their test scores.
Exactly. And that's actually where his work with the Pentagon comes in.
Okay.
He was advising them on how to build what they call adversarial command and control systems.
Adversarial command and
Yeah.
control. Okay.
These are systems that are designed to function even when they're under attack in highly uncertain and chaotic environments.
So basically designing systems that are tough and adaptable enough to handle whatever is thrown at them.
Exactly. And he started to see how these same principles could be applied to education, because what is learning other than navigating this complex landscape that's always changing?
It's like each student is facing their own battlefield of knowledge, and
Yeah.
they need the right tools and the right mindset to not just survive, but thrive in that environment.
That is a great analogy, and that's where his focus on adaptability and resilience comes in.
Yeah.
He argues that we need to prepare students not just for the jobs that exist now, but for jobs that don't exist yet.
Yeah.
We have to equip them with the ability to think critically and solve problems creatively and adapt to new situations.
So it's not about memorizing facts anymore. It's about fostering those deeper skills, those mental muscles that let them learn and evolve throughout their lives.
Exactly. He thinks that everyone should be a lifelong learner, constantly looking for new knowledge and challenging what they think they know.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And you said that this idea runs through all his work, from his early days in online education to his work now with AI and personalized learning. Wait a minute, back up. You mentioned online education. Tell me more. What was his early work in that space like?
Well, back in the 1990s, long before online learning was mainstream, he founded one of the first digital learning networks
Wow.
called aimlexchange.com.
Aimlexchange.com.
It was a groundbreaking platform that connected students and educators from all over the world,
Wow.
facilitating collaborative learning and knowledge sharing.
Wait, he was doing this in the 90s. That's way ahead of the curve. Most people weren't even using the internet back then. What was his vision for online learning, and how did it connect to his later work with AI?
He saw that technology had the potential to democratize education, to make learning available to everyone everywhere, no matter their background or location.
Yeah, I like that.
And he thought online learning could create a more personalized and engaging learning experience, tailoring content to the individual needs and learning styles.
So these core ideas, personalization, access, and engagement, they were all there from the beginning.
Exactly.
He was thinking about this long before AI was really a thing.
It's really fascinating to see how those ideas have evolved and matured alongside the development of AI.
It's like he's been on this decades-long quest to really unlock the potential of human learning, first with online education and now with AI.
And what's really striking is that his focus has always been on humans.
Yeah.
He's not interested in replacing teachers or making education less human. He wants to use technology to empower learners and educators.
So it's about augmenting, not replacing, using technology to create a richer, more dynamic, and more human learning experience.
Precisely. And that brings us right back to his work with the Lumen Circles.
Okay.
It's in these spaces that we see all these threads coming together. His understanding of data and its limitations, his focus on adaptability and resilience, his early work in online education, and his belief in human-centered technology.
This is amazing. It feels like we've been on this whirlwind tour of his mind, connecting all these different dots and seeing how they form this big vision for learning. But I have so many questions.
Like what?
Like, how are these Lumen circles structured? What does a typical day look like for students? How are they using these AI tools? And what are the real tangible outcomes?
Great questions, and I'm excited to answer them. But first, let's just take a moment to gather our thoughts, and we'll be right back to explore how Dr. Malhotra's vision is coming to life in these Lumen Circles.
Okay, we're back, and I am ready to step inside these looming circles. It's one thing to talk about theory, but I want to know what it's actually like for the students.
It is pretty cool. So picture a space designed for collaboration and creativity, not rows of desks.
Okay.
Students gather in these circles, and they start each day with something Dr. Malhotra calls an appreciative inquiry session.
So they're starting off by focusing on strengths and potential not problems. That sets a very different tone than a traditional classroom.
Right. And then comes the exploration phase.
Okay.
So they might dive into a really complex topic using AI tools.
Yeah.
For example, imagine they're learning about climate change.
Okay.
They could use AI to analyze data sets, generate visualizations, or even create simulations of different climate scenarios.
Wow, that is so different from just reading a textbook. So they're using AI to really get hands-on and explore the information in a bunch of ways.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about just accepting whatever the AI comes up with.
Right.
The students are encouraged to question the data, challenge the algorithms, and think about different perspectives.
So they're like data detectives using AI to uncover insights and build their own understanding.
That's a great way to put it. And throughout this whole process, the teacher is like a guide, a facilitator, helping them navigate the information and ask the right questions and connect the dots between different ideas.
So it sounds like it's a real partnership between the students, the teachers, and the AI. Everyone's playing a role.
Exactly. And this is where Dr. Malhotra's concept of quantum minds really comes in.
Okay.
He encourages them to embrace uncertainty, experiment, and learn from their mistakes. It's not about getting the right answer. It's about developing that flexibility to adapt and thrive when things are unpredictable.
So they're building those mental muscles we talked about earlier.
Exactly, the ones that help them navigate a world that's constantly changing.
Yeah. And what are the results?
Well, the results are pretty amazing. Students in these Lumen circles are showing a much deeper understanding of complex topics. They're asking better questions, and they're showing more ability for critical thinking and problem solving.
Those are the outcomes that any educator would be thrilled about. It sounds like Dr. Malhotra has really figured out how to integrate AI into education in a way that is both effective and human-centered.
I think he's definitely on the right track.
And it's inspiring because his work isn't just about getting better grades. It's about empowering students to become lifelong learners, adaptable, resilient, and ready to face whatever the future holds.
He's a true visionary. His work reminds us that we all have that quantum mind inside us, that capacity for creativity and adaptability and infinite potential. It's about using that potential to navigate our complex world.
This deep dive has been incredible. Dr. Malhotra's work is so thought-provoking and inspiring. It's a call to action for all of us, educators, students, anyone who cares about the future of learning to embrace innovation, challenge assumptions, and unlock the potential of the human mind.
I completely agree.
So to our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about Dr. Yogesh Malhotra and his groundbreaking work, check out the links in our show notes. And remember, stay curious, embrace the unknown, and never stop exploring the vast possibilities of your own quantum mind.